I'm at the Galpin Hall section of the 2019 LA Auto Show, and inside is a display of all kinds of vehicles with various kinds of customizations. Excuse me. This particular vehicle is the Jay Leno's Garage edition of the Ford F-250 that is customized by Galpin Autosports. Galpin is a conglomerate, a major dealer conglomerate here in the Southern California region. They're like the Penske family with the Penske dealerships across the country. Here, it's all about Galpin, and they sell under various different brands. I look forward to the day of meeting Jay Leno and showing me his electromobility collection. This particular vehicle was done up with the wheels, the side appliques, what have you. As I've mentioned, because of the simplicity of the drivetrain, the power supplementation and drivetrain layout of electromobility, no two electric cars should be alike. And there's many more of these variations and customizations inside the hall here at Galpin Hall. We will continue our journey with electromobility as we go along. Stay with me. Of all my years going to the auto shows in New York and coming out here to LA, I have never seen such electrified excitement in the literal sense as I have for this year's presentation of the Ford Motor Company at the 2019 LA Auto Show. And one of the things that they did this year was introduce their first full production all-electric vehicle. I often tell people and write in my posts and news articles that the first real electric car that General Motors produced was the Chevrolet Bolt, and that they really do now need to produce a serious electric car. Well, it seems that Ford has forewent the building of a real electric car other than their compliance vehicles that just about every car company has made, and they went right express to making a serious all-electric vehicle. And that's what this car is, 2020 Ford Mustang Mach-E. And in making the Mach-E, what Ford has done essentially was made the Mustang a brand, because now you have two vehicles in the Mustang stable that are unrelated to one another. They share very little, if any, components at all, and they are two completely different vehicles. One is the iconic traditional classic sports car, and the other one now is the four-door fastback CUV utility that you see behind me. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that for years, Ford had been planning to make a four-door Mustang. And in fact, the 1964 and a half Falcon Mustang that we all are familiar with that started the iconic car had a four-door variant that was in the line that Lee Iacocca, who was one of the co-creators of the vehicle, had in mind to make. But the two-door fastback, notchback, and coupe were so popular, and Carroll Shelby made the case that when he made his GT that he needed a lightweight frame in which to do it, and a four-door would just complicate the matter of doing that. They decided to just stick with the two-door, and as the years and decades went on, Ford just made the two-door sedan. Now, of all the Mustangs that have been produced, it actually was the Ford Fairmont Fox Mustang of the 1980s that was the closest to becoming a four-door sedan. Matter of fact, they were planning on putting that right into production, but also that went wayward, and the four-door just never materialized until now. So this is now the first full production all-electric vehicle that Ford is producing. It is the first time in their history that Mustang now has two models that are available for sale, which actually in a way makes it a brand. And it is now the first time that Mustang now has a four-door variant. And all of this is historical when you think about it. This is not how the creators of Mustang had intended things to go, and in some strange but in some splendid way probably everything is going to work out. I do know this: Of all the vehicles that I have test driven, that I have written about, that I know about, this vehicle, you can tell that Ford has definitely done their homework. They watched and saw all the mistakes that the European manufacturers made with their subpar technology, their insufficient ranges, and they also paid attention to all the problems that even Tesla had introducing their vehicles into market, and they had this polished product already that's not yet into production with all of the aspects and virtues. You can also tell that Ford really wants to sell this product. They're offering 5 different trim levels for this car. The car starts at about $43,000, and it goes up to about $60,000 for the top GT model with a 300-mile range. This car, I would say, probably will compete somewhere between the Tesla Model 3 and the Tesla Model Y CUV. But one of the nice things about this is that this car, upon its introduction, that you probably will not have with the Tesla Y, and you didn't have it initially with the Tesla Model 3, is that you'll be able to lease it. And I do know that Ford traditionally has offered very generous credit terms and conditions for their leases. So this is something that you probably would want to consider as a viable option, and either as far as purchase as opposed to leasing. So here it is, the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now, a lot of you have asked me, why haven't they made Lincoln, a CUV variant for this? Well, I honestly believe that if this had been a Lincoln instead of a Mustang, Ford would have had a bigger mountain to climb trying to sell the car as a Lincoln than they would as a Mustang. I really don't think that they would have the hype, and they probably won't have the sales numbers, as time will show, that had this been a Lincoln initially as opposed to being a Ford Mustang. And in that they made it a Ford Mustang, they made it so unique in its introduction and that aspect that its electromobility base will make it now a feature selling point that will make it unique among other Ford products. So there you go, the Ford Mustang Mach-E. I shudder to show you a cutout of a hybrid vehicle. You know how I feel about hybrids. It's not that I'm necessarily anti-hybrid. I am anti-tiny battery. We really don't need tiny batteries in the auto industry anymore. And the reason why is because the ionization process for lithium ion is cheap. It is cheap. It is now universally available, that you can pass the costs of developing the technology and manufacturing the materials and the product to the consumer, that these vehicles now, once these manufacturers switch supply chains, can be a lot cheaper than making a gasoline car. That's why General Motors, for an example, went through that massive slew of hybrid cancellation last year when they switched supply chains to all electric. So now it is more costly to make a gasoline vehicle than it is to make a electric vehicle. And the only way that you can do this is if you go through that process of switching supply chains. And I know as a fact that as of the recording as of this recording, November of 2019, that Ford has not gone through that process, and this is why they continue to make hybrid vehicles. Now, one of the things that I want to show you with this, I'm going to pick up the camera and actually bring it over here, is to show you a nice cutout of what it entails making and manufacturing an electric vehicle. Now, this is a hybrid, but the basic similar components of what goes into a electric car is right here, that you all need to see. What you have up in front, well, let's start with the battery pack. Because this is a hybrid, the battery pack is going to be much, much smaller than it is going to be for an electric car. There's probably one on each side of the transaxle, but if this was a regular electric car, Right in the frame of the vehicle would be the battery pack, and it would be laid right across underneath the passenger compartment, and it would go across both sides. What is interesting and unique here that I'm going to show you when I move the camera is the modular hybrid transmission that would be used to diffuse the power between the motor that would either go in the front or in the back or in both places. This particular vehicle, obviously because it's a hybrid, has the motor up front. So I really like this layout. So this gives you an idea of what it is that you would have if you normally would have a gasoline vehicle as opposed to a hybrid, as opposed to an electric car. But here it is, basically. I'm going to pick up the camera now and show you. So, as I was saying, here is the, whoops, let me get this straight. All right. So here is the battery pack, and you would probably have this on both sides. And if this was an electric car, it would be probably laid out underneath the entire passenger compartment to show you the comparative size with the tiny battery. And then here is the modular 10-speed hybrid transmission. This would probably be a similar transmission that would be used for an electric car if the motor was up front between the transaxle and in the rear, or in both if it was a laid-out configuration, and also with all-wheel drive. And then up front, obviously, would be the motor for the gasoline engine. And then back here, everything else is basically the same. You have your suspension, your braking. These here are probably the fuel lines from the gasoline, or the brake lines. That could be that too. And that's basically it. What you have, the rest here is a cutout of the floor, cutout of the spare tire, the seats. And that's basically it. But that is the cutout of a hybrid vehicle. I just wish it was electric.